What is going on, guys? DragonTamerBlayde here, back from our Elder Scrolls Legends, and today we're going to be doing another Moons of Elsweyr card reviews. I realized we are quite far behind, actually. I think I'm currently 12 cards behind, and with tomorrow being the last day before the expansion comes out, and there's presumably going to be a card dump tomorrow, so tomorrow's video will probably be pretty long based on those card reviews. I figured today we're going to try and catch up. So we're going to do all 12 cards today. I know I try and keep things in the 4 to 6 card range, just in the interest of brevity. However, we need to catch up. So we're going to do 12 cards today. I'll try to be slightly faster than usual. I'm still going to give you guys my thoughts, because I think that's why you're here, is to hear my thoughts on the cards and how good I think they are. But I won't go as in-depth as I usually do. But again, let's just get it started. I don't want to keep you guys here forever. First up, we've got Moon-Touched Guardian. 4-cost, 3/3 Khajiit. And Endurance, by the way. Wax, give a creature in your hand +2/+2. Wane, gain guard and ward. So when you play this on curve, it's a 4-cost 3/3 guard and ward. That's honestly pretty phenomenal. When you compare it to something like Thorana's Lawman, which is a 8-cost 5/5 with the same keywords, this has 2/2 less stats and costs half. So this is a phenomenal card. Wax, give a creature in your hand +2/+2. So in total, you're getting Bleak Coast Troll worth of stats while on Wax. So that's still probably fine, but I don't think it's as good as Wane. I still think this is a really, really strong card, and we've seen some more Wax and Wane revealed, and there's another one we're going to talk about towards the end of today's video that makes this card arguably one of the best, if not the best, Wax Wane cards revealed so far. Yeah, I think this is a really, really strong card. I would put this in like the borderline 4-star range. I think an early game guard ward is outrageously good. The +2/+2 can potentially be good. And hypothetically, if you could do both of them, this would be a really, really, really good card. Wink, wink. Next up, Ill-Fated Scholar. Legendary card, 3-cost 3/2. When Ill-Fated Scholar is consumed, summon a 3/2 Insidious Spirit. This is what Insidious Spirit looks like if you're curious. So, 3-cost 3/2, understated for the cost. It is about a 2-cost worth of stats. However, you're playing it for the eventual upside of getting a free 3/2 if you need, or if you ever consume this card. So, in total, you're getting a 3-cost 6/4 worth of stats across two bodies, and you have to eventually set up the consume. But I still think this is pretty solid, to be honest. It sucks a little bit to play a 3-cost 3/2 on curve, depending on what type of deck you are. Aggro probably can't afford to do this, but some sort of mid-range deck probably can. And you're going to lose a little bit of, advantage playing a 3-cost 3/2. But the eventual payoff of getting a 3/2 for free can make it worth it. So I think this card is better than it looks, and it's neutral, so it can fit into any of your consume strategies. So I'd give this card probably like a 3-star rating, just because of the tempo loss you have to take to play it. But it eventually pays itself off, and more. So I think it can be decent in certain decks. Next up, Khajiit Helm. 2-cost, 1/3 item. With the ability Summon, the wielder deals 1 damage to your opponent. You want to talk about them trying to force Pilfer decks into existence? Holy fuck this card, dude. So, 1/3 worth of stats. You can compare it to something like Legion Shield, which I think costs 2 for +1/+3 in guard. You can compare it to the Rally Battle Mace or whatever, the Rally Battle Spear. Veteran Battle Spear. It's a 3-cost 1/3 with Rally. This is a 2-cost +1/+3. So item-wise, it's okay. It's the same stats overall as Steel Scimitar, while not quite as good. However, the wielder deals 1 point of damage. So you're getting +1/+3. You're dealing 1 damage to your opponent. And the wielder itself is dealing the 1 damage. So this triggers all pilfers right away on a creature. So something like Sails Through Storms, you instantly pull a creature from your deck when you play this item onto it. This is amazing pilfer support. It's honestly not even a bad item in an aggro deck because you're putting 1/3 worth of stats onto something. So putting that onto, for example, your 5th Legion Trainer is fantastic. But this does amazing things for Pilfer decks. This card is bonkers. This card is really, really good. And it helps offset, again, some of the weaknesses of Pilfer. Shit, dude. I'm scared of this card already. I'm actually going to put this in the 4 to 4.5 star range. I think this is one of the best cards we've seen so far. It's just super scary. Super, super scary. God damn. Next up, we've got Lunar Sway. 1 cost, neutral action. Wax, put a 3/3 Cathay Rot into your hand. Or Wayne, put a 4/4 Doggy Rot with Guard into your hand. So it's a little bit interesting, because it's a neutral card that you can play on 1. And if you play it on 1, on 2, you have kind of an overstated creature that you can play. Or if you play it on turn 2 or something like that, you get a 3-cost 4/4 with Guard. So no matter what, you're getting an overstated creature. The 3-cost one even has a keyword. And, again, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. If you could play both of these, you're getting a 1 Magicka 3/3 and 4/4 with Guard, and both of them are overstated. I think this is a very solid card. And it gives you something to play on turn 1, even if it's not instantly getting you onto the board. It's setting up a more powerful turn 2, so you can kind of make sure you have something to play on curve early. Or let's say you have a 2-drop and you don't necessarily need to play Lunar Sway for the 2-drop. You can wait until eventual turns and set up the Doggy Rot. I think this is an incredible card. A 2-cost 3/3 is very good. A 3-cost 4/4 with Guard is very good. I think the floor for this card is 3.5 stars, but I could see this being a 4-star card. And it's neutral, so you could see it all over the place. This is going to be bonkers as an arena. Yeah, this is a really, really strong card. Next up, we've got Totem of Fear. This could be incorrect. That was roughly translated, I believe. This is the Polish version, but the text here is Prophecy, unsummon a creature and reduce its cost by 3. Oh, look, there's an English image. Fear Totem. Unsummon a creature and reduce its cost by 3. So this can be either your creatures or your opponent's creatures. So this could be an interesting way, kind of like Hearthstone's Shadow Step, to pull a creature back and either activate a powerful summon effect one more time. For example, with Ancano for... No, you have to pay the Magicka for this. It'd have to be a Prophecy. I'm sure there's some cheeky combos you can work out with this, and it's a flexible card. Because you can also unsummon one of your opponent's creatures, or if they put a bunch of items onto something, you can bounce it back to get rid of all of those items. So it's pretty flexible in that you can use it defensively or as a way to play one of your cards multiple times with your very powerful summon effects. And it's a Prophecy, which gives it a little bit of bonus points. Overall, using it defensively isn't that great because you have to reduce the cost of your opponent's creature by 3, meaning they can essentially play it right away guaranteed. So usually it's only things that have been buffed that it's going to be really good against. On your own, guys, it's probably pretty decent. I feel like I'm probably underestimating this card. My gut's telling me like 2 stars, maybe 2.5. But I could see this being a good card in certain combo decks, if a combo deck were to sprout out because of this card. Finally, for our first batch of 6, we've got Moongate. This was my hint, hint, nudge, nudge. 1 cost support, 2 uses, activate, get both Wax and Wayne effects this turn. Keep in mind, this isn't activate your next creature gets both Wax and Wayne. This is, for the rest of this turn, every creature you summon activates both Wax and Wayne. So as early as, like, let's say, I don't know, turn 4, if you have this on the board, you can activate Moontouch Guardian and play a 4-cost 3/3 Guard Ward, give a creature in your hand +2/+2. Or you could play Lunar Sway, get Cathay Rot and Doggy Rot, drop your Doggy Rot, and still have a Cathay Rot left over. And we've seen so many other Wax and Wayne cards. This is incredible. And it's low-risk support because it only costs 1 Magicka, so even if your opponent removes it, I mean, hypothetically, you're either going to play it the turn before you play multiple Wax and Wayne creatures, or the same turn you summon at least 1 Wax and Wayne creature. So you're usually playing this to get immediate value, but even if you play it to set up value next turn, even if your opponent removes it, It's a relatively low-risk play because it's a one-cost support. So even if your opponent uses removal on it, like, you only lost a card and one Magicka, whereas they lost prime support removal, and you may have other supports in your deck. Yeah, this card is really, really good, and we've seen a lot of Wax and Wane effects that are really, really good. Like, in particular, I'm thinking about the Kitty Cat. That can be a 4/7 with charge, or a 4/7 with charge and guard, or a 7/7. I think it was. Combining those together, 7/7 charge guard. Holy crap! Like, this card is incredible, and most Wax Wane cards we've seen have had at least one of their sides be good enough that you could consider playing them in your deck, either for the Wax or the Wane, if not both. So for most of these cards, let's say just the Wax is good. I can play a card because the Wax ability is good enough, and the Wane ability is meh. And then I have Moongate, where obviously I'm playing it because I already think I'm already okay with just getting the Wax, and then the Wane is bonus. Or there's a bunch of cards where Wax and Wane are both good, and then you get one holy shit of a play. This might be my first 5-star card of the expansion. That's how good I think this card is. It's incredible, and this is the kind of card that I was hoping that existed for Wax and Wane cards, because it's the kind of way to really just get tons of value out of it, and this card is incredible. So, next batch of cards. I'm actually going to take a sip of water while we do this, too. Nope, that's not. This is the next batch of cards. Swoop. So, first up, we have Moon Bishop. It's a 1-cost 1/1 that has Wax, gain 4 health, or Wane, well, Wax 4 creature health. Wane, you gain 4 actual health to your face. So this is actually a 1-cost 1/5, which is a really interesting stat line. It's more stats than any 1-drop has had in this game. And again, 1 attack is relatively low, but it makes it like a fantastic Steel Scimitar option for turn 2. Having a turn 2 3/7 is pretty incredible, especially in some sort of aggro deck. The Wane ability gaining 4 health is mostly forgettable. Nobody plays Rift and Lawkeeper, and that's a 4/4 with Breakthrough, gain 4 health. But I think this card is probably playable just to have a 1-drop that comes down really good. Like, but you have to usually have a follow-up item for it, or at a minimum, like Orc Clan Captain or something to follow up with. So I think this card is a really good turn 1 play, and feels pretty crappy if you play it anytime after turn 1. And it could be like emergency heal in the late game. Kind of like a 1-cost cheaper healing potion that doesn't have Prophecy in the mid to late game if you need the health. So I guess there's a little bit of redemption for flexibility there. Overall, I'd give this card probably 2 stars. I don't want to underestimate it. There's going to be times where you just get absolutely blown out by this card when your opponent drops this on turn 1 and follows up with a Scimitar, and you can't answer it quickly enough and they snowball out of control. But I think the card is bad enough after turn 1 that it doesn't quite rise through my rankings more. But this is a card that I feel like I could be underestimating. Next up, we've got Bone Weaver. 5-cost, 5/5 guard. Consume a creature. Draw a creature with the same name from your discard pile. So this card's a little weird. It almost sounds like Falkreath Defiler's new effect. And it's a 5-cost, 5/5 with guard, which is a fair stat line, while not great. The only problem is, for this summon effect to be good, you need to have at least 2 copies of a given creature in your discard pile, or else this ability is useless. Because you have to consume the creature and then draw a creature with the same name from your discard pile. So Galen Loops, this card can work well with, and other kind of fringe scenarios. Overall, I'm not super impressed by this card. If it was just consume a creature to draw a creature from your discard pile, I'd be more intrigued. But as it stands, needing to have 2 things in your discard pile die, or 2 of the same exact card die, so that you could potentially draw 1 of them and lose both from your discard pile, I don't think is enough upside to run just what is basically a Dren Bodyguard. 5-cost, 5/5 with guard. It's not completely useless, so I'd give it probably 2 stars, but I'm just not super keen on this card. Next up, we've got Reanimate. I think I saw people joking that this was like Monster Reborn from Yu-Gi-Oh! 9-cost action, summon a creature from your discard pile. So this is pretty interesting, and you're really only going to want it for like big chunky cards. However, there's enough ways, like with Camel and other cards, to get stuff into your discard pile that this card could potentially even be giving you a summon on a discount. So like a 9-cost summon Parthenax, Odiving, Marok. The article actually says Marok and Calgrantide here. Like, there's enough good cards that I think this card is probably pretty solid. And even if you don't summon something that is giving you a Magic a discount, summoning something key from your discard pile can be exactly what you need to turn the tide of a game, and it's another way of turning your graveyard into a resource. Purple has no problem ramping, so getting to 9 Magicka won't even feel that bad. And usually they're playing enough chunky stuff anyway. I think you could potentially see some sort of like Legends version of Hearthstone's Big Priest, where some purple deck is just going to kind of ramp and dump big creatures into the discard pile and eventually reanimate them and then play whatever ones they don't dump into the discard pile. I think this is a pretty powerful card. It is slow and it's a little bit risky, but at the same time, playing 9 Magicka isn't really that big of a deal for a lot of decks. And getting to be able to use some of these cards without having to Soul Tear and then play them. So like, for example, playing Soul Tear to play a second Marok costs 14 Magicka total. And still costs a card anyway. Whereas Reanimate just costs 9 Magicka, and you save the step of having to Soul Tear it first. So I think this is probably like a 3.5 to 4-star card. Just very, 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 very strong card. And there's going to be a whole bunch of combos with it as well. Next up, we've got Illicit Butcher. 4 cost 4/3. Consume a creature to shackle a creature. It's not bad. People have compared it to Ash something. I can't remember it. It's a 3 cost 4/3 that if you have a creature with 5 power or more, shackle a creature. But that card costs 3 for the same stat line. This has a less difficult condition to meet, but costs 1 whole Magicka more. It's kind of tough to make a fair assessment of this card. Like, on one hand, I think it's decent in like a Shackle Assassin type of deck. And the Shackle is good enough on what is a okay body for being able to shackle. Like, I think we're getting to the point where there might be enough shackles to where you can possibly create, like, let's say you're in a mid-range mirror and I'm playing like a very shackle heavy mid-range deck and you're just playing regular mid-range. I think you can eke out some wins just by packing a ton of shackle. But that's a very specific use case that I don't think you can meet often enough for Illicit Butcher to really be worth the price. It's not a dead card, and it's probably pretty good in Arena. But as far as constructed goes, I think outside of hoping that Shackle Assassin finally becomes a thing, I don't think Illicit Butcher is that good overall. I still think it's probably a 2-star card, just it needs some work. Next up, we've got Queen's Captain. 8 cost 4/4 kitty cat. Wax, draw 2 cards. Wane, destroy a creature. So this is one of those cards that I was talking about where both sides of Wax and Wane are incredible, and that Moongate, or whatever it was, is outrageous with this card. This is an 8 cost, 4/4, draw 2 cards, destroy a creature. So this is like Triumphant Jarl had a baby with Manticora. It doesn't have the same stats as Manticora, and it doesn't have guard. But this card is incredibly flexible because it can also draw you cards with no condition other than Wax and Wane, or destroy a creature with no condition other than Wax and Wane. I think this is a very strong card and becomes incredible with that Moongate. I think we could see it in a fair amount of yellow decks. And the thing that's interesting about it is, I think this card is decent enough that it doesn't just go in slow decks. You could potentially see this in some sort of mid-range type of deck, because it draws you a bunch of cards unconditionally, or it destroys a creature unconditionally. And that's good enough in a mid-range deck, I think, that you could probably see this in like in a theoretical Wax Wane mid-range deck. Has this as one of like the top endy type of cards. I don't know if you necessarily run 3, but I can easily see you running 2 of these in that type of deck. I think this is a very strong card. I think it's another one of those like floor is 3.5 stars. Ceiling is probably 4 stars. We've seen draw 2 cards is very good in this game. Triumphant Jarl still finding a way to see play. Moose has become incredible, but Moose is also really helped out by having guard. This card doesn't have guard, but it also has a way to destroy cards. So I think it'll probably be in that... I think it's probably closer to 4-star territory. It's not going to fit in every deck, but I think this is the kind of card that even without that Moongate, you would consider running it, and this card just becomes outrageous with Moongate. And finally, last card for today, Fallen Dragon. It is a 5-cost 5/10 with the ability Summon Fallen Dragon deals 5 damage to itself. So in a normal scenario, this card comes down as a 5-cost 5/5 that is already pre-damaged, and as a result, it is weak to Leaf Lurker. Not that Leaf Lurker sees a ton of play anymore. What does this mean? Outside of having Lion Guard Strategist or Fighters Guild Hall on the board, this card is kind of meh. And I hate to say that because I love dragons. This card could be pretty decent if, let's say, for example, you were playing East Empire Crafter. This came down as a 6/6 guard, and then you also were playing Ballywog Tidecrawlers, so you could instantly heal this creature. So it'd be like a 6/11 guard. It could be pretty good in that front. This card is bad in most decks, and it's good in a deck that doesn't exist yet, I think is the way I'd put it. Like, this would be good in a... not even a full self-damage deck. It'd be more so a self-heal kind of deck that isn't really a thing yet. Maybe you can turn this into like a self-damage / self-heal deck, but I think that might be trying to do a bit too much to really be effective. So overall, I would say it's probably just good in like a self-heal deck, but that deck just doesn't exist at the moment. Maybe it finds a way to exist at some point, just not yet. And honestly, even the Dragon Tag I don't think is enough to really save this card from itself. I think this is probably like a 1.5-star card. It's not good enough to make you really want to run a ton of healing effects. A 5/10 is obviously a great stat line, but again, there's so much hard removal that even the stat line isn't enough to save just playing a 5/5. So yeah, that's going to be it for now, guys. Let me know what you think of all of these cards that have been revealed today. What are your ratings? What decks are you going to run them in? All that jazz. Let me know down below in the comments section. As always, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.